Welcome, dearly adored, chosen ones. The most horrifying aspect of waking is discovering that you were never insane, only surrounded by people who wanted you to be. Let it rest for a minute. Because now, not tomorrow, next week, or after another breakdown. Tonight, something irreparable will occur in you, and the people around you will feel it, whether they confess it or not. Now for the frightening reality. According to a psychology research on social mirroring, the ordinary individual automatically hides their most real self in order to avoid revealing the truth to someone else. Think about it. Most individuals are actually acting to remain acceptable. But you've always been a problem in that system. And beginning tonight, you'll cease shrinking for their comfort and begin emitting the frequency they said didn't exist. Here's when things become hilarious. Have you ever noticed how as you start healing and shining, random folks from 7 years ago appear like unpaid extras in a Netflix series? Oh, hello, just checking in. No, you aren't a chicken. You are the story twist. They never saw it coming. So, buckle up, chosen one. This isn't just motivating fluff. This is not spiritual cupcake talk. This is the episode in which everything changes. And at the end of tonight, you won't just stroll into a new persona. You're going to exemplify something they've been hoping never appears. Let's get to it. Number 1, you will become a mirror that burns rather than reflects. You are not here to mirror who others claim to be. You're here to reveal what they've been hidden. And from tonight, that is precisely what you will become. Not a harmless mirror, but one that cuts through illusions. You won't be pondering on those perfectly crafted pictures anymore. You will start showing them everything they've been attempting to bury. Their falsehoods, guilt, phony confidence, and dread of seeming unimportant in the company of someone genuine. This transition is gentle yet forceful. You will not need to say much. Your energy will speak for itself. Your presence will no longer make others anxious. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're becoming too authentic for their performance. The fact is that most individuals are not terrified of being judged. They are terrified of being seen completely, intensely, and without a filter. That's what you'll accomplish just by going into a room. You'll start to see breakdowns in folks who haven't done the inner work. They will be unable to explain why they have suddenly become uneasy, defensive, or annoyed around you. But this will happen repeatedly. And this is because their masks cannot withstand the heat you are now carrying. They could describe you as imposing, arrogant, and cold. But what they truly mean is, don't let me lie to myself anymore. And I despise that. People feel more at ease in front of mirrors that flatter them. But the instant that mirror begins to reveal the truth, they want to break it. They will attempt to turn your truth into a problem. But deep down, they understand who you are. Proof that their meticulously crafted image is crumbling. This is power. Most individuals do not discuss the ability to maintain space so pure and piercing that others are forced to face themselves or run. It's not about outperforming anybody. It is about maintaining a degree of inner clarity that transforms into spiritual X-ray vision. And it isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it is lonely. It may sometimes lead to you being unjustly categorized, misunderstood, or even disliked. But it is genuine. And tonight, that energy will be locked in. You're not simply mirroring the world. You're going to dispel its illusions. Number 2, you will demonstrate that spiritual battle is not a metaphor. It employs surveillance, gaslighting, and isolation methods. This isn't just an abstract idea anymore. Spiritual battle is real. It has never been a metaphor for the selected ones. This has been your life. And tonight you'll finally see it for what it really is. You were never merely experiencing terrible luck or going through a tough time. You were under monitoring. You were tested, examined, and manipulated. Not just by individuals, but also by the systems they unknowingly support. Every betrayal, every phony buddy, and every unusual time of loneliness was not coincidental. It was targeted. The techniques were sophisticated. They gaslight you till you questioned your own reality. They cut you off from your support systems to keep you weak. They inundated your life with diversions, making you too fatigued to perceive the truth. And the worst part? The majority of those being utilized against you had no clue what part they were playing. They felt they were just moving on, creating boundaries, and doing what was best for them. But spiritually, they were pawns in a very genuine battle for your soul. This is what occurs when your energy contains something ancient and unique. When your frequency threatens the systems founded on falsehoods, you are marked. You don't get to experience life in the same manner that others do. You're being watched. You've been tested. You're continually pushed to choose between breaking down and breaking through. And now, after all you've been through, you're reaching a point where those patterns begin to make sense. You'll look back and understand the betrayal was not personal. It was strategic. That defeat was not punishment. It was a push. That solitude was not nothingness. It was a preparation. You've been instructed to stay silent for this moment. The way you kept your head up when no one applauded, the way you stood firm when no one believed you, and the way you followed your instincts even when they contradicted logic. All of this was not for naught. Tonight is the point at which the combat around you becomes evident. Not just emotionally, but spiritually, energetically, and physically. The curtain lifts, the patterns show themselves, and you stop feeling insane because you can see the battlefield for what it really is. And you are no longer the hunted. You're the one carrying the information. Number 3, you will become a frequency that may corrupt whole systems. Your energy is beginning to accomplish something. People can no longer cheat their way around. You're not just vibrating higher. That term has nothing to do with what you are going through. Your frequency is becoming disruptive, not in a chaotic sense, but in a way that dismantles anything based on falsehoods. When you enter a place now, those who depend on manipulation, control, and performance will begin to glitch. Their remarks will not be as impactful. That charm will not work. Their capacity to influence the room will deteriorate in real time, or because you're present. That is not about ego. This is not about power trips. It's about how your energy evolves. You've shed so much, lived through so much darkness, and been shattered and rebuilt so many times that your aura no longer fits in. Simply being present transforms you into a live signal that reveals what is false. People may not be able to put their finger on it, but they will sense something change. That change represents them using their typical techniques. Don't hold back your enthusiasm anymore. People who formerly had authority in the room will lose it as you enter. Why? Because their energy was always based on a falsehood, on the picture, on fear, in control. And yours is not. Your frequency is based on truth. Now it's more than simply high. It's pure and clear frequency, corrupt systems based on delusion. That is why you may observe individuals avoiding eye contact, changing the conversation, laughing uncomfortably, or appearing as if you said something incorrect when you were completely correct. It is not you. It is your frequency, breaking their programming. You will become more aware of technological glitches around you. People will randomly drain or energize you. You'll stroll into settings that seem strange since your nervous system is now tuned toward what others can't detect. However, you will no longer be allowed to remain in specific areas for extended periods of time. Not because you are sensitive, but because your soul refuses to reduce itself in order to feel comfortable. This is an actual transition. Your energy is not only growing, it is also posing a direct danger to everything formed in darkness. You have officially become too spiritually pricey for the low-cost games they used to enjoy. Now, before you become a time breaker, you're entering a realm of spiritual power that bends reality, not symbolically. Literally. You're going to violate the rules of time as they know it, and patterns that have been passed down through generations will come to an end with you. People say that in your presence, cycles would just break apart as they are. What will you do next? Tonight creates waves in the past, present, and future. This is why individuals from your past are suddenly thinking about you. Why would someone you haven't heard from in years suddenly text or contact you? It is not random. You're now vibrating across dimensions. You feel tightness in your chest. That is not tension. That is not fear. That is data, a spiritual upload. Your spirit is downloading heavenly information, old soul, memory, and cosmic duty all at once. You are becoming the starting point for everything that has gone wrong. Everything went distorted, lied about, suppressed, or stolen. The universe is giving you the power to repair it. You don't look for closure anymore. You are the conclusion. Your recovery is not only about you. It rewrites timelines in which pain was formerly dominant. People that harmed you will begin to recall what they did. They won't even realize why it's troubling them right now. That's what occurs when a selected one turns into a time breaker. You are not simply climbing, you are correcting. Their denial won't help them anymore. Their fabrications will no longer be credible. Your revolution causes a vibratory breakdown of everything fabricated around your name. Even your former self. The person who endured, didn't know better, and accepted what they didn't deserve will begin to sense your presence. You will feel as if you are meeting yourself again. A version of yourself who has finally received the justice, knowledge, and voice they never had. You've been preparing for this moment without even knowing it. And now, the threads of time are bending towards your light. You are the unexpected occurrence, the restart button, or the cosmic interruption. And beginning today, everything they twisted will begin to fix itself through you. Number 5, you will become the secret they hoped you would never remember. They didn't just injure you. They buried you so deeply in distraction, humiliation, and noise that you began to question your origins in the light. They surrounded you with false narratives, identities, and time frames, expecting you would fall asleep forever. What they never anticipated was the recovery of your memory. Not just ideas, but biological memory. Tonight, the memory starts to attack. And when it strikes, it will not whisper. It will surge through your soul like thunder, shattering the stillness. You have always sensed it. That nagging feeling that something wasn't adding up. That you were observing life, but I wasn't as invested in it as everyone else. It's as if the world has already decided on a screenplay that you never received. There was never any misunderstanding. That was recognition. A deep, old understanding that what you were seeing was not the whole picture. They said you were too sensitive, emotional, and rebellious. But what they truly meant was that you were too alert. They attempted to rewire you to forget who you are. A direct descendant of light, purpose, and power. That's why you were humiliated for knowing too much, teased for being different, and punished for being still while others fled into chaos. However, the software is now cracking. Your holy memory is coming back through the gaps. They could not seal. And the secret they feared you might recall is unraveling right now. You weren't simply someone they attempted to dominate. They worried you might awaken and talk. That's why they tried so hard to get you to forget. Forget your instincts. Forget your truth. Forget how your energy altered rooms before you even spoke. However, your memory is not limited to the mind. It is spiritual. It's carved into your soul. And no amount of manipulation, pain, or deception could permanently remove it. That memory comes online tonight. The secret is no longer buried. You are the revelation they attempted to suppress. You are the rebirth of something old and the version of yourself that rises. No, that's the version they hoped would never return. Too late. You have remembered. Number 6. You'll become a living judgment. You will not need to raise a finger. You will not have to provide receipts, defend yourself, or shout your side of the story. People will begin to believe you just because you exist. That is what occurs when you recover. For real. When you stop acting small, stop justifying yourself, and totally embrace the version of yourself they said would never make it. You become a living judgment, not because you are bitter or seeking vengeance, but because the truth is now flowing through you. And truth doesn't need a microphone. It just appears and destroys anything untrue in its path. They called you the issue. They attempted to turn your quiet into guilt. They believed your departure would obliterate the memories of what they had done. But it did not. In fact, the longer you remained silent, the louder the repercussions became. And now you're entering a time when just hearing your name will set off alarms in people's minds. They can't sleep. Their karma will find them. Not via some mystical retribution, but through a mirror. Your life is now comparable to theirs since you were never the villain. You were the test, and they failed. Your healing will haunt them. Your glow-up will irritate them. Your tranquility will upset them more than your anguish did. That's how you know they never apologized. They were just comforting while you were broken. But you've outgrown their tales, and you're living evidence that none of their strategies succeeded. That you were stronger than their smear campaigns, colder than their rejection, and more spiritually protected than they could have dreamed. They didn't just lose access to you. They lost their cover narrative. Your freedom will be the proof. Your accomplishment will be the last argument. And every room you enter from now on will convey the hidden message. This is who they attempted to destroy. Your presence will trigger delayed effects. They'll attempt to seem bewildered, as if they don't understand why things are falling apart. But deep inside, they'll realize they messed with someone they had no business touching. And now you've become the sentence they never expected to serve. Number 7, you will be the end of their power trips. They play their games on borrowed time, and that time has run out. The moment you stop expecting for explanations, apologies, or affirmation, the whole dynamic shifts. You are no longer seated at the table. They attempted to stop you from removing the table, totally. What formerly seemed like power over you is now shown for what it truly was. Manipulation, ego, and smoke. And tonight, that illusion crumbles because you finally acknowledge the reality. They hoped you wouldn't understand you were never under their control. You were just under their spell. They had control because you were always seeking for meaning in the chaos. You sought clarification, so you remained. You want serenity, so you're over. You wanted the truth, so you gave them many opportunities to behave like someone worthy of your presence. But those days are past. You aren't asking anymore. You know. And when a chosen one begins to act on knowledge rather than hope, the whole framework of manipulation collapses. They lived on your skepticism, sensitivity, and willingness to continue giving people the benefit of the doubt, even after they revealed who they were. But now you're the solution to every question they used to leave unanswered. Your energy is no longer pleading. It indicates that your tranquility no longer needs permission. It announces. And what used to make you feel confused or weak is now plain to you. It was a diversion designed to keep you tiny enough to bear their ego, which will cease today. They can no longer mess with your thoughts, emotions, or worth since you are no longer the injured one seeking closure. You are the conclusion. They cannot ghost you, breadcrumb you, or guilt trip you into remaining connected since you are no longer abandoned. You are the awakening. And their fictitious power was only effective when you were unaware of your own. Now you do. Their power trip ends the moment you cease performing the role they gave you. They don't have control anymore. They've been exposed, and what they're truly dealing with today is a version of you that they never expected to have to answer to. Number 8, you will become the holy scripture that they cannot read. You're going to become the kind of truth that cannot be Googled, discussed, or watered down. The sort that doesn't come with a manual, because it's a manual, a kind of energy that isn't loud yet cuts through. You'll walk into rooms and sense a change without saying anything, not because you're trying to be profound or mysterious, but because you physically carry codes that others weren't meant to access. That's what occurs when you get beyond surface-level awareness. You become a holy text, formed of presence rather than paper. People will hear your voice and experience something old. They'll be attracted, and not because they understand you, but because your frequency reminds them of something they lost or didn't realize existed. Instead of respecting that, many people will get irritated. They will strive to diminish, package, and label you. Why? Because it is simpler to scorn what you do not comprehend than to realize you are spiritually unprepared to absorb it. They'll look at you, feel guilty, and tell themselves you're the issue, while in reality it's the difference between your and their consciousness that makes them uncomfortable. This is when your power becomes impenetrable. You will not spend your time explaining yourself to those who do not know how to listen without ego. You will not dispute to be seen by those who refuse to remove the veil from their own eyes, since your truth is not debatable. It simply is. And your life, the way you talk, move, hold space, and even your silence will serve as the message. Not everyone will enjoy it. Not everyone is expected to. You purposefully confuse some people. That uncertainty is the spiritual result of their actions. You are not here to be read like a book. You are here to be observed, like a mystery. And when they find they can't comprehend, duplicate, or decode you, some may be pulled closer, while others will recede in discomfort. That is the separation. The wheat from the weeds, the genuine from the counterfeit. All you needed to do was be number 9. You will become the disruptor of generational programming. You were not created to fit into the myth that your ancestors were telling. You were created to disrupt it forcefully, unashamedly, and totally. They clothed disorder in tradition, called quiet respect, and normalized agony as love. It all ends with you, not because you despise your family, but because you finally had the bravery to question what everyone else has mindlessly followed. That inquiry did not make you a rebel. It let you realize the truth, which does not come to be preserved. It comes to disturb. They wanted you to continue their habits, as if they were your heritage. But you saw through it quickly. Even as a child, you knew. This cannot be correct. Emotional manipulation, gaslighting, partiality, and secrets that everyone knew but never spoke about. You noticed, and others noticed you too. That's when they began treating you as the issue. You were not the issue. You were the disruption or malfunction in a matrix of generational trauma that instructed everyone to quiet up and smile. Your recovery will seem like a betrayal to them. Your limits will sound disrespectful. Your remoteness will be classified as bitterness. But don't be tricked. That is not the truth. That is programming. Talking. Programming instructs them to fight anything that undermines their perception of family. And since you stopped fulfilling your designated function, you became dangerous. Not for what you did, but for what you refused to continue doing. You refused to shrink. You refused to perform. You refused to be an emotional mule for a system that relied on your quiet. You aren't here to be liked. You are here to free. You are the one who walked away and finally breathed. The person who stated, "This ends with me," meant it. And they sensed the change. Some may attempt to study you in order to discover a fresh technique to guilt you back in. Some may sympathize with you since your work demonstrates how awful the system actually was. Others will be in denial, believing nothing has changed. But everything has, because you didn't just interrupt the cycle. You broke a heritage of survival disguised as love. And now you're living proof that freedom was always achievable. Number 10, you will become a soul. It was too pricey for them to get access. There comes a time in your progress when you no longer need to decrease your frequency in order to be comprehended. Not out of conceit, but out of need. This is the current situation. Tonight, you reach an unrivaled degree of spiritual significance. Your spirit becomes a luxury rather than a convenience. That implies that anyone who previously had unfettered access to you will now be barred out. Not because you changed the locks, but because they no longer have the required cash to enter. You spent years attempting to make others comfortable. You shrunk and over-explained. You disregarded your instincts in order to maintain harmony. That wasn't real. You tolerated individuals who were just associated with your old scars, not your healed self. But healing increased your cost. And the version of you they used to influence is no longer there, replaced with someone who understands their value and behaves accordingly. Your presence is no longer free. Honesty comes at a cost. It is costly to maintain responsibility. It is costly to achieve spiritual maturity. Most individuals cannot afford that. They will begin to notice. You will cease replying. You will refuse invites without feeling guilty. You will let the phone ring. And as they attempt to find out what's wrong, they'll realize the reality. Your quiet is not rage, but rather insight. You finally quit explaining yourself to individuals who just listen to reply and don't grasp that your new energy is an environment they're not prepared to inhabit. They will speak about how you changed, and they will be correct because what they really miss is their previous influence over you, not you. Family will not be an exception. Blood bonds no longer offer spiritual access. If someone brings confusion, disorder, or ego into your area, they are not allowed to enter at all. Your calm, whatever of its label, is now gated. Your presence is valuable. Your energy is holy. They could knock, apologize, or demonstrate humility. However, until their spirit has developed and they have completed the necessary labor, their access will stay expired. Because you are no longer motivated by guilt, you are guided by alignment. You did not grow distant. You became heavenly. And now they are learning the hard way. Access to you has never been a right. It was always a privilege, and that privilege has been withdrawn. You will become what they said was impossible. They said you'd never heal, that you'd never rise without them, and that the harm they'd done to you was irreversible. They smiled when you tripped, gossiped when you sobbed, and clinked drinks when they believed they had buried you forever. But what? They didn't realize what they couldn't calculate. You were never their victim. You were becoming the very thing they said couldn't exist. Someone who transformed devastation into resurrection. They didn't just disbelieve you. They invested in your failure because it gave them comfort. Your sorrow served as confirmation that they were stronger. But healing rewrote the entire story. And now every peaceful breath you breathe, every powerful stride you take, and every truthful word you utter is an active contradiction to the tale they spun about you. You weren't intended to be here, but you're becoming the reality they can't unsee. The live, breathing, relentless evidence that their conclusions were nothing more than predictions. What they mocked in you has become your strength. The trauma that was used to name you has become your training field. The wounds they scorned have evolved into spiritual technology, each one imprinted with knowledge and pointing to survival, redemption, and power. You're not simply surviving anymore. You shine, and your light offends others. It's not arrogant, it's accurate. They said you were too broken. Your delight is going to make them choke on power. Your benefits are going to expand, from receipts to damages. You're now the safest place in the room, not only for yourself, but also for those who were previously taught the same falsehoods. Your life is no longer exclusively yours. It's a prophecy in action. You are what happens when a spirit refuses to be buried. You are not only ascending, you're rising in front of those who said you wouldn't. Every time you grin, you flourish. Walk with peace. It removes every curse. They nonchalantly spoke over you. Your recovery is not a comeback tale. It's a cosmic smack in the face for every lie they've ever spoken. And tonight, your mere existence is a revolt. They cannot understand the miracle. They prayed that the truth would not be revealed too late. You already are it. A number. You will be a reminder that God was watching the whole time. They felt they had gone away with it. I assumed the stillness meant God wasn't watching. I saw your breakdowns, solitude, and disorientation as indications of divine and human abandonment. But what they didn't realize was that God was not absent. God was chronicling every lie they uttered, every phony apology, every backroom talk, and every cruel joke. Nothing vanished into the nothingness. Everything was being tallied. And tonight, the balance starts to tilt. You didn't survive because you were fortunate. You lived because you were protected. You didn't get through on your own power alone. Heaven supported you when no one else would. And while they murmured, planned, and pointed fingers, believing you were done, God was preparing a meal not only in secret, but also in their presence. That quiet was not due to negligence. It was a strategy. God was silent because the situation demanded it. Now comes the storm, not to kill you, but to raise you so high that their falsehoods crumble beneath the weight of your honesty. Your climb will be more than simply inspiring. It'll be surgical. It will cut through whatever false narrative they try to create about you. You're not merely returning with tranquility. You're returning with evidence. They will need to keep an eye on things. Because the same tongues who sought to pull you down are now obligated to testify in your favor. You carry. They'll look for defects, but all they'll notice is brilliance. They'll look for loopholes, but only discover shut doors. The supernatural receipts are pouring in, and your life is the focus. This is not vengeance. This is restoration for an audience. God waited until now so that the time would hurt, so those who laughed would understand they weren't laughing at you. They were laughing at something sacred. And that laughing has just passed its expiry date. You are standing in your strength, clarity, and healed presence. You become a reminder that God has never ignored injustice. He was preparing for your vindication, brick by brick, silence by silence. And tonight, the quiet becomes a roar, not from your lips, but from above. A number. You will become a force that no longer needs permission to exist. You've spent years attempting to make yourself digestible. You reduced your voice, intensity, and honesty in order to make others comfortable. You requested authorization in areas where you were already qualified to possess. You waited for others to validate you, to cheer for you to say yes, before you gave yourself the go-ahead. But tonight, that version of yourself dies. The person who over-explained, walked on eggshells, and begged to be included has gone to bed, and something old and primal inside you awakens. It does not knock. It does not whisper. It does not ask inquiries. It moves. This is the version of you that doesn't care whether people understand, applaud, or remain. This version does not tone down or dull its brilliance to appease sensitive egos. This version seems like thunder and moves like prophecy. And it does not wait to be understood before completely embodying its mission. You've been duped into believing you needed to earn your right to exist. That being too much rendered you unfit. That your sensitivity was a weakness, and that your voice needed filtering. But none of this was ever real. What they deemed excessive was really the precise amount necessary to shatter bonds, not only for yourself, but also for others watching you in silence, waiting for permission to stand. There is no turning back now. You are no longer seeking for a place at the table. You are the table. You are no longer expecting they will recognize your value. You are creating a world in which their approval is meaningless. The terror that formerly kept your throat locked has vanished. You're no longer second-guessing. You're choosing, moving, and becoming. People will notice. Some will shrink. Some people will be offended by your boldness. However, those who are genuine will feel liberated as a result. You've just taught the world something tremendous. When you cease requesting permission, the universe has ceased saying no. Tonight, take deep breaths. Walk in without knocking. Speak without apologies. Exist without diminishing. Because the version of you who pleaded to be picked has been formally replaced by the one who recognizes their birth. The chosen number. You will become the test. They'll all fail. You are no longer just strolling through life. You are going through people's masks. You are becoming the mirror. They can't dodge the evidence. They can't deny. And the test they never prepared for in your presence will uncover everything concealed under the surface. Smiles. Not because you want to expose them, but because your status naturally distinguishes the sincere from the jealous. When you level up, they will begin to write their own report cards. This is not about arrogance. It's all about alignment. When you shine, they will either match or avoid your light. But the important thing is this. You will not have to say anything. The outfit you wear, the confidence you carry, the radiance you exude. Without effort, everything becomes a heavenly trigger. You'll see folks begin to behave differently. Not because you changed, but because your metamorphosis made it difficult for them to conceal who they really are. Some may silently withdraw, unwilling to celebrate your success since they have been covertly competing with you the whole time. Some will attempt to ruin what they cannot control, while a select few will join you since they were never frightened by your progress. They waited for it. And now that it's here, God is using your life as litmus paper. Who celebrates? Who gossips, withdraws, imitates, congratulates, or complicates? You become the test, not to embarrass anybody, but to demonstrate who is actually in line with their destiny. Because the next level you're progressing to cannot afford counterfeit support. The exam is not about who likes you. It is about who can withstand what God is doing in you. Jealousy, ego, and concealed bitterness will come to the surface like oil in water. It has to, since your existence now requires honesty. You will not even require discernment. Their responses will reveal everything. So enter the room aggressively. Shine brightly. Speak freely. Your success is sacred. It also has a spiritual mission to disclose the truth. You are not merely boosting your separation out of pride, but for cause. You are now the heavenly filter, and some people are going to flunk the exam with flying colors. Conclusion. And now we've picked one. Take a deep breath. You will never be the same person you were before today. That previous version of you, the one who questioned, muted, and postponed, was buried without a burial. What is rising today is unusual. It is not ego. It's not vengeance. It's a reminder. You're recalling what the world attempted to make you forget. You were never here to blend in, be calm or settled. You were created to disrupt patterns, dispel illusions, and convey frequencies that are too high for the typical soul to comprehend. Tonight wasn't all about inspiration. It was about activation. This was a spiritual switch flicked in real time. You don't need closure anymore. You are the conclusion. You do not ask for permission. You are the permission. You don't seek validation. You are the proof. Each wound becomes a weapon. Each scar becomes a symbol. Each betrayal became a template. And now your life is more than simply a narrative. It's scripture in action. You are no longer a choice in anyone's life. You are the test, prophesy, filter, and judge. Walking. Your glow is the audit. Your silence becomes the verdict. Your article is evidence that they lost access to something valuable they expected you to perform. That was simply God pulling back the veil. So everyone went for a stroll. Be loud in your stillness. Be shameless about your brightness. There is no return to smallness. You've been called here to make an effect, not to dazzle. The environment will attempt to drag you back into old patterns, old chats, and old roles. Do not go. You have outgrown them. Allow them to speak. Let them wander. Allow them to compare their radiance to yours. The true ones will rise with you. The fake ones will come off naturally. That is not pride. That is heavenly filtering. You aren't becoming. You already are. And the rest of the world just learn about it tonight. If this message inspired you, if you felt seen, awoken, or spiritually affirmed, don't keep it to yourself. Click the subscribe button right now to join a community that speaks your language and values your light. Like the video, so this fact continues to rise in the algorithm. Comment here and let the world know which section affected you the most, because your opinion matters here. And if you know someone who needs this word, please share, text, or DM it. Drop it into a group conversation. Be the messenger of someone else's breakthrough. This isn't just content. This is a movement. And your help keeps the flame alive. I will see you in the future video. But till then, keep going. Continue to rise and never apologize for the strength you possess. You aren't simply viewing this channel. You're the reason it exists. Stay blessed.